So, first of all, I don't think we've had a mayor's brief since all the election stuff's done. So, congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you.
And
same to you.
thank you. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. I got 4 more years. And so
Yeah.
it's going to be 4 more years that we really try to work hard toward making the city of Rocky Mount all that it can possibly be. And,
Exactly.
I think we got a really great spot. I think we're headed in good directions. I'm excited with our chief of police. I'm excited with our new manager. I'm excited the directions that we're generally heading. Not to say that we're there yet, not to say that we've crossed the hump even, but, I feel like every day we're building a little bit of strength and momentum and getting to good places.
That's it. Man, it's all about progress.
It is.
Every day you try to do your best and eventually get to where it is. We'll always be striving, though.
That's right. Yeah. You never get there. There's always something to improve on if you're being honest with yourself. And if you're not, then, I guess you pronounce yourself the GOAT and move on.
That's it.
So, we had a rather eventful meeting on Monday night, but most of it was in closed session, so we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
That was related to some economic development stuff and some attorney-client privilege, and I felt like that was a robust thing. I believe that we will be able to communicate that to the public fairly soon, and I'm pretty excited about some of the conversations that we were having in that meeting, just to try to tease everybody who might be watching us today.
Anytime we have opportunities, presenting themselves for economic development, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, while many people say we have a lot of dysfunctional council, and I can't argue that may be true sometimes. When it comes to economic development, I will say on balance, everybody is generally in agreement with making it happen, because I believe that the council, despite what you want to believe or think, is generally about advancing the economic opportunities for the city of Rocky Mount in every single case. In fact, I've not seen one where that was not the case.
Yeah, in our tenure, I haven't seen it. And I mean, to your point, economic development, it helps the future of Rocky Mount.
That's right.
So you started to think about your kids, your grandchildren, life after you've lived on, and you think about the opportunities that you can be a part of.
Right.
And you want to make that happen for the next generation.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. So really, we heard a little bit about sanitation workers, employees in our public comments, but that was really it. And there wasn't a lot of that this time. I'm hesitant to say that it's gone away or is going away, but I believe that the absence of any employees there speaking, the absence of, at least in my hearing from folks, they seem to be relatively satisfied with the pay that we're going to get. We know that it'll be addressed again during the upcoming budget.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that we also have merit pay increases that are an opportunity for our folks, advancement opportunities. And I believe it was Nehemiah Smith who came up, really read all the benefits that the city of Rocky Mount gives for folks. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, I didn't know all those things.
Yeah, me either. Not to the magnitude of, once he began to list them out, I knew some of them, but
well, it was like education, we'll pay for educational opportunities for advancement for our employees. We'll give them some time off and work with them accordingly. Gosh, I can't remember all the health benefits and the dental, and
the list goes on.
It was really pretty impressive. I probably should have brought it here to read it off for everybody, because I think that really does help underscore some of the message that we really do take care of our employees. And it's unfortunate we can't pay everybody $700,000 a year, but it just, in fact, we don't have anybody that gets paid $700,000 a year, so I don't want to get quoted on that. I don't want that to be misinterpreted at all.
It'll happen.
It will happen. So I'm getting more careful as I get a little bit further into this whole political thing, right? But we'd love to pay everybody all the money in the world, but the truth is we can't. But we can at least make sure that our folks, relative to their pay grade, relative to what private industry would be, is competitive and in a good place. And I think that we've done that very nicely.
I mean, the city's a great place to work with. I would love to see some of our percentages of what we have for just retention of employees,
right?
Because I'm a firm believer that majority of our employees for the city end up retiring from here if they can. And so I believe we have a good retention rate of employees and retaining them.
Intuitively, I think you're right. But again, I would like to see those numbers too. And, just talking about that a little bit in incentives, our police department, I heard anecdotally that we only have like 2 vacancies right now, if you count the current class that are going through the law enforcement academy. I don't know exactly what the police academy, I don't know exactly what that's called, but But once that class graduates, we will only have 2 vacancies. Now, policing is something that you never have 100% full. I mean, you never will.
Yeah.
There's always a turnover just by the nature of the job. But the point is, we've gone from something like 54 vacancies to, we'll call it a normalized vacancy rate.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. And I've seen a lot more police out on patrol. I've seen a lot more people, being a lot more interactive in the community, driving around versus sitting in parking lots and kind of waiting for things to happen, playing zone defense. They're out there having to play a little bit of man-to-man. And that's been good to see.
Yep, and that, I believe it's BLET, basic law enforcement training. But once they come out of that,
thank you for bringing me to the 22nd century or 21st century.
But once, I mean, to your point, you don't hear a lot from constituents saying, "Hey, I don't feel safe.
Right.
I need more law enforcement. More visible. I'm not hearing what I was hearing in 2019.
Not the same way
about law enforcement. Now we're looking at other issues now, and I believe it shows that something has happened to solve some of a problem. There's still some issues. There always will be, but for the most part, we're seeing great things in our police department.
I think you're right about that. So kudos to the chief again. I can't say enough great things about him. I think that he's come in and done a yeoman's job in the circumstances in which he took over. And I believe the city manager gave him some fuel to be able to help him out. I think council has been very supportive of that. So I'm excited to see all those cylinders hitting the way they're supposed to hit. So, I guess really what it came down to is we had 2 things. One, we had an appeal for the planning board decision on a piece of property on Bethlehem Road.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I don't know, but here's my understanding of it. A developer went to the planning board and said, "Hey, look, I would like to do a series of cluster homes on this piece of property, this parcel of property, because in conversations with the community said, well, we don't want to lose this barrier of trees. We also have concerns about flooding. We also have some other concerns." And so the developer said, well, fine. What I'll do then is I'll make it cluster homes and not disturb that component of it, and I can still get the same density per acre on it.
Yeah.
Planning board has denied it, and then we had a little bit of discussion about that on Monday night. And you have any comments on that?
I think it's a matter. We saw maybe 1 or 2 years ago, really some problematic situations arise from development and rezoning.
Sure.
And I think it boils down to just communication.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I think the questions asked Monday night from council members and also from constituents were great questions and questions that are needed in order to get to the finish line. Because what I was hearing from communities, hey, we're not saying we don't want it. Let us have our input. Let us be a part of this process. Let us work with you to allow this to be possible. But these are some of the barriers that we're saying we don't mind it. We just want X, Y, and Z. And sometimes I know that can be pretty difficult. When you're a developer, the rezoning process can already be difficult. Development can be difficult. All the things can go on and on and on with the list. But knowing that constituent input and community input is important.
Right.
And council doesn't want to be in a situation where the community is saying we don't want it, then we approve it. And so sending it back to the planning board, allowing that to be hashed out there. To me, I felt like if we could have did this on several other projects a couple years ago, man, we would have some fairly new housing development.
Well, you're right about that. We did miss an
Uh-huh.
opportunity, at least within the last 18 months, on rezoning that we chose not to do that really could have been a better benefit. And maybe this would have been a better approach to it or something similar to it, to your point.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify for those who didn't see the meeting, a lot of the questions that council were asking, particularly Councilman Blackwell and Councilman Harris and Councilman Daltridge, I believe, were the primarily ones raising the question. It really came down to community involvement. What does the community feel? What are the challenges? What's the process you've been to up until this point? What are the flooding concerns? The other thing that we always hear on these things, and I know it's true, is about traffic, increase of traffic.
Yeah.
But I think that folks don't fully understand is that you have to do a traffic study and DOT is part of that conversation. That's not really the city of Rocky Mount.
Mhm.
And so many times they'll require the addition of a turn lane. They'll require different changes in the road that the developer may have to pay for as a condition to. But that really is outside of what the city does.
Yeah.
And I think that gets lost a lot of times in some of these discussions,
Yeah.
not understanding who has what piece and part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we gave it back to the planning board so they can thank us for that later.
Exactly. Exactly.
But anyway.
And I believe we have a full planning board now because
Yes.
there were some vacancies there. So hopefully, there's enough representation from each ward,
Right.
Again, to make it and have at least a quorum for the
That's
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
And there had been some challenges with that, but again, that you're alluding to. But I think we're where we need to be now, or
Exactly.
and fully armed and ready to go. So, and I will say thank you to all those people serve on that planning board. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know all the members. I know that Matt Sparati chairs it, and just
Yeah.
want to thank him for all of his hard work on it, because it's no small task to give that amount of time.
It's not, and it's very, very important,
And you're
to
making
the
hard
development
decisions.
of the city. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So anyway, God bless them. So then we really got down to the consent agenda. And of those, there were, I think, maybe two items that probably deserve some conversation. One was the wholesale water contract that we were renewing with the town of Whitakers. And what folks don't realize is that we have something in the neighborhood, don't quote me exactly, but it's around 3 million gallons a day of capacity that we have that we can sell.
Mhm.
And we had a lot of that. We built a lot of that capacity in the 60s and 70s and early 80s when textiles were up and going in really strong ways in this part of the world, when Burlington was here and Rocky Mount Mills was open, and
Yeah.
Rocky Mount Yarn, and on and on and on. And so when they closed after NAFTA, when those jobs left, because they used a lot of water,
Mhm.
we have all this capacity. And so we've
Yeah.
been struggling. I know you and I have had some, conversations just, theoretically about this.
Yeah.
We could sell the water. That does create additional revenue for the city of Rocky Mount. But if we give up the capacity, then how do we get it back? And what that plays really well sometimes in economic development.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we're seeing are related to the EV, electronic vehicle industry, particularly battery manufacturing, which apparently takes a lot of water. And
Mhm.
so we don't want to give up that capacity. But yet we get offers, it feels like to me, at least twice a year, 3 times a year from some other municipality saying, hey, look, we'll build a pipeline
Yeah.
if you'll sell us some of your water. So it's always sort of that balance. And I don't know if you have any comments on that or.
Well, it just shows, to the listeners, it shows the value of the water,
Right.
and how, it's needed. And I think maybe last year, I think interim manager Varney was here when we started some of those conversations, but I think we made the right decision. And it sort of leaned to some of his wisdom, of just being around and saying, hey, I think we need to hold what we have,
Right.
because of the value of what we have, and looking at future development. We may need this capacity moving forward. And I think after a while, we'll look back and say, that was the right decision. So
I hope we do.
Yeah.
I hope we do. And I believe that given enough time horizon, then we certainly will. But,
it just seems like a lot of water just hearing it.
it is. Well, it is a lot of water.
Yeah.
But, here's the other thing. So in that contract for Whitakers, it's 100,000 gallons a day that we're committing to for Whitakers. So I mean that's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
So just kind of put that in perspective. And I don't know what we're using of that 3 million gallons a day, but it's certainly something of significance. I think we have probably a third of that million gallons that we could sell to somebody. But what it does show is that we have the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Nash County doesn't have that infrastructure. Edgecombe County doesn't have all that infrastructure. We do here in the city, and we really need to harness that to help us develop not only our city, but our region in a way that creates positive jobs, creates a positive place that people want to live and work and play. And I think that we've worked really hard on trying to make that happen. We were hoping that the entertainment district could add to that a little bit, and who knows, maybe that's still out there in some future, but today we've got to move on and think in different directions and different ways.
Exactly.
So anyway, the other thing that really came up that I think probably merits a little discussion is, the Cookie Road property. And so for those who don't know or have been here a long time and remember, it's the old Planters Mill out there on Cookie Road. And I think it had been a fertilizer plant, and then I think they had even stored some peanuts there for a while. I'm not sure what all it did, but it was an eyesore in Ward, I guess 3. Is that Ward 3?
Yeah. Ward
For
3.
years and years and years. I remember as a child that place was basically closed. And when my grandmother lived on Branch Street, Tyen Street, I go bouncing around. It just sat there as an eyesore over and over and over all the years. Well, the city decided at some point to take it back, buy it, I guess, or maybe we got it, but we reclaimed the property. It was all brownfield. I mean, no shocker there. They've been doing fertilizer there for a long time.
Same.
And so we took that, cleaned it up, got some state grants to be able to clean up the brownfield, or at least part of it. And so the other part's still a problem, still needs to be cleaned up. And so this developer came in and said, hey, look, we'd like to put in a Dollar General. And we had a little bit of pushback on it. Maybe you can provide more color on that than I can. It seems like to me, last I heard, we had a deal going, and the next thing we didn't, and now we do. So I missed a whole lot of that story that maybe you can, give us a little background.
It's sort of like the rezoning situation.
Sure.
Again, communication. I think the community received different communication than what was going on, or maybe no communication at all.
Right.
And, all of a sudden it's on the agenda, or it begins to be talked about, and about it coming about in the agenda. And now the community's like, hey, wait a minute, this is a decision going on around me that's coming before council, in which we represent everyone. And it's at least our respective wards first, and then the city as a whole. Right. And so the community saying, hey, wait, I think it was more so the community saying this decision is made without us. I believe the community would have had more information up front, been a part of the process, probably would have went over a little smoother. We may not have been to this point. Development may have happened. It could be some shovels in the ground by now. I don't know, but
I think that was the plan. Probably 8 months. It might even be opening by now if we proceeded on plan.
It doesn't take Dollar Generals long, I will tell you. But the new and they had proposed the new market sort of fixture of Dollar Generals and more contemporary Dollar Generals.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that. We're talking about fresh produce. We're not talking about what the Dollar General of yesterday. It's a fresh market kind of thing.
It's fresh market model. We have one in Ward 4 with that model.
Okay,
it does.
Which one is that?
That's the one furthest down, closer to 97.
Like you're on the way to the airport.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
So I believe that's the only model we have with the fresh produce. I don't believe the other Dollar General in town has it, or maybe we may have two, but I know that's at least one because it's right in my back door.
Yeah, right. So you go there.
I'm there frequently, I'm all the time, and it beats going to Walmart.
I get it. I get it.
You can go in, go out, get almost exactly what you would get from Walmart. Only place it really doesn't compete with is Sam's,
right?
Because there's more of a bulk.
Well, but you got to buy like $700 worth of stuff, but it is cheaper on a per unit basis.
It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's more convenient. Right. It's right there. So I believe it would have been an asset, but the community again was sort of left out of that process of what I'm hearing. Communication,
right?
Hopefully, it still works out for the good, and the community will be able to be a part now of the process, and developer will be able to do what's needed to be done.
Yeah, and so I was hearing a little bit of that too, just on the periphery, and I tell you where I get confused. I mean, I certainly believe the community has a right to speak, and I certainly believe that it matters. Not diminishing that at all. But the other perspective on this is, here you got a guy who's willing to spend $200,000 for this land. That our intent actually is to take that money and then clean up the other side of that lot, so that now we can put that back into the public domain and try to sell it, try to get a development going. But some guys putting in, I don't know what a Dollar General costs to build, but I was just looking at it, guessing $2.5 million for the structure, guessing inventory, $250,000-$300,000, going to employ probably 25 to 50 people. And I'm taking all that risk.
Yeah.
And the community gets to vote every day whether they go into that store and buy something or not.
Yeah.
So it's in that developer's best interest to always make sure the community is always happy. At least in the product offering that I'm making. And so I always get a little bit, not sideways, that's not really the term, but I always get a little confused, like, okay, I understand that argument on balance, but at the same time, you got a guy who's willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of his problem at the end of the day?
Yeah. Well,
if he guessed wrong, then Now, I can tell you this, if I'm the developer, I'm going to do everything I can do to talk to everybody in the community, make sure they want to come buy my products.
That's it.
Before I make any kind of bet on that.
That's it. To your point, the community on the back end has the same privilege and power to say, we don't shop there.
They got more then.
Yeah,
because if,
exactly.
Excuse the expression, you're pregnant. You've already built this building. You've employed these people. You got all this produce you got to sell.
Exactly. You're going to need to make some type of changes in order for us to shop. But I think it, again, communication, and maybe if the community even, has an opportunity to speak with representative from the company. I really don't know, but I think it boils down to just communication.
Always. Yeah. You know what? You can never over communicate something. You can never ever over communicate, and generally speaking, the confusion seems to be over the same stuff. We're both saying the same thing, but we're not listening to each other in terms of what we're trying to communicate. Only realize that, gosh, we're saying the exact same thing, what we want.
Same. I mean, in one or two words, you grab hold of one word you dislike, and now you missed the whole message.
Shut down, right? Now I'm talking
completely
at everybody.
done. That's it. So,
Well, I didn't really see anything else in the meeting on Monday. I know that we had a follow-up meeting yesterday, and we'll continue to have some more meetings probably on some of that economic development stuff, which I'm kind of excited about. I'm always excited. I love economic development. I love seeing the opportunities that we have, and I love to see all the different people that are coming and presenting to us, and it's kind of encouraging. I wish I could share everything in real time, because I believe that it would really encourage a lot of folks in terms of where we are.
Well, I know, as soon as we can, we will keep the community abreast. Again, just have that communication and dialogue.
Right. Well, Councilman, I really do appreciate you coming today. I tell you, it's always a joy to have this. It's good to be back. I think I've been gone for about a month and a half or something like that. Man. Part due to campaigns, part due to holidays and all that kind of stuff.
Seems like forever.
It does feel like yesterday. It does. It is good to be back.
Yes,
so anyway, well, God bless you and thank you.
Thank you.